Good evening, everyone. And as you're tweeting this, I know the hashtag is supposed to be TEDxTopeka. If you can just throw in a hashtag #GoCubsGo, that would be awesome. I would really appreciate that. That helps with the juju a little bit. As I said, my name is Brittany Simmerman, so that makes two things that Britney Spears and I have in common. We have the same first name, and we get to wear these earpiece microphones that are really uncomfortable. I am the assistant athletic director at Washburn University, and like they said, I do come from a background of athleticism and a background of leadership. And so when I left law school, I am actually a recovering attorney. No offense to Sean, but being a real attorney was really hard for me. So I took this job as an assistant athletic director, and I do compliance. And basically what that means is I get to go to work every day and work with student athletes. I work with them on eligibility and academics and everything that goes with their student athlete experience, and I absolutely love my job. The weird thing about my job is this. When I walk into the athletic department, there's one thing I noticed from day one. There's not many women there, and there's definitely not many women holding the same position that I hold. So 40 years ago, Title IX comes into effect, right? All of us in some way, shape, or form have been touched by Title IX. So the NCAA did a study a couple of years ago and just looked at what's it like to be a woman in collegiate athletics. Here's the deal. 2/3 of the people who hold that assistant athletic director title that I hold are male. 80% of the folks who hold head coach, head athletic director, or conference commissioner titles, male. That's the world that I live in, okay? And it's not just athletics that we're talking about. You know, it was a great thing to hear about that NPR study, but this isn't new research. Gallup did a poll 3 years ago, and they just called people up and asked them, if given the choice, would you rather have a male boss or a female boss? And 40% of people said, I'd rather have a male boss, please. So then they asked the follow-up question to all the females that they were surveying, and they said, okay, females, do you have a female boss? Yes. If you have a female boss, would you rather have a male boss? And 1/3 of those people, those females who had female bosses, said yes. I would much rather have that male as a boss. Why? Why are we so afraid of having females who are in leadership roles? I think a lot of it has to do with what I like to call the coin flip boss. So when people look at women in leadership roles, they're really worried about what kind of female am I going to get? Am I going to get the weak, meek, underestimated, nice, but soft female boss? Or am I going to go over here on the other side of the coin and get that type of boss who is in your face and aggressive and cold and heartless, whose only concern is the deadline and doesn't care whether I show up to work or not, dead or alive, as long as the project gets done? We know here, as people who are attending tonight, we know that those are stereotypes, but they are so ingrained in our culture that we've kind of started to take them as cultural truths, which is terrifying. So as I was thinking about this presentation, I was thinking, how can we take all of those things that we traditionally think about females in leadership roles, you know, those qualitative, those emotional identifiers that we throw out there, and how can we turn that into something that's workable for us as females in leadership roles? So the rest of this is kind of my attempt to do that and to help all the women and the men here in the audience figure out how we can change the outlook of females in leadership positions. So leadership at its base level is all about relationships. My absolute idol, Pat Summitt, she was the head basketball coach for the University of Tennessee for many, many years, just passed away within the last year. She said, you win in life with people. It's so easy and it's so simple, but that's how leadership starts. You cannot be a leader if you don't have followers. It's all about building relationships. If you cannot build a relationship, you cannot be a leader. period. End of sentence. So if we look kind of back through history, we look at Aristotle. And Aristotle wrote a book on rhetoric. And he was talking about the Greek word ethos, which is character. Character is the foundation of that relationship building process. And it's something that we start building from the day that we're born until the day that we die. Character is not how you present yourself. How you present yourself is more your reputation, okay? Character is who you are on a deep, personal, core level. And so every opportunity that you have to build that character is either adding to your character or subtracting from it. So let's say that you're at a drive-thru. You're at Starbucks, okay? My poor partner has had so many bad Starbucks experiences where they've gotten her drink wrong or whatever, and she handles it like a pro. But you can handle these a couple different ways. You can either get right up in that barista's face and say, look, yo, you did not get this right, and just jump down their throat. Probably not good for your character, okay? That gives a pretty bad impression. But if you handle it with respect, a little bit of kindness, a little bit of love, that's adding to your character. So everything that we do when we're respectful, when we're loyal to our coworkers, when we're loyal to our family, when we exude that positive vibe, when we practice true love and true friendship, that's adding to our character. And that's something that we tell our kids as they're growing up. That's something that we tell everybody that we work with. You have to be the type of person who is a person of character. So once we've built that character, we talked a little bit about reputation and kind of how people see you. Your personality is a big part of how people see you. So take a second, think of the first 3 words that come to your mind when I say, describe yourself. Go. All right. When you think of these 3 words, are they physical traits? Are they emotional traits? How are you describing yourself? Because honestly, women and men, we miss the boat on this question in college applications, in interviews. We are not answering this question in a way that's really going to help us out, because it doesn't do me a lot of good to come up here and say, I'm super athletic or I'm super short. Those aren't things that are going to make an employer want to hire me, okay? I know, you all know I'm short. I may be on stage, but come on. So I am a personality test junkie, okay? I love researching at work about, 6 o'clock before a volleyball game starts. I'll pull up BuzzFeed, and BuzzFeed can tell me what Taylor Swift song my personality is most like. It can tell me what type of cookie I am. Used to be Snickerdoodle, now I am double chocolate fudge chip because I'm too real. Don't ask me what that means. I don't know. There are a lot more scientific ones, okay? So one of the more scientific ones is the Myers-Briggs type indicator. And what Myers-Briggs does is it kind of compares your personality and your preferences. And so it's looking at 4 different comparisons. And the first one is whether you are more extroverted or whether you're more introverted. So extroverts tend to get their energy and get their good, positive vibes from working with other people. They're bouncing ideas off of one another. They like those group projects, and they like that interaction with other people. I'm not that person, y'all. I fall on the introvert side, okay? I like to compare it to drinking Earl Grey tea. Earl Grey is my favorite, and it is one of those kind of finicky teas where if you don't steep it long enough, it doesn't quite taste right, but if you steep it too long, it's way too strong. That's kind of how I get my energy and how I develop my ideas. I kind of like to let them steep and build on it from my memories and experiences and just what feels right, okay? The next one is looking at whether you're more sensory or whether you're more intuitive. And sensory people, kind of like it sounds, they're really relying on that see, smell, hear, taste, touch, the 5 senses, to take things from the world around them and really build their view and their perception of the world. Intuitive people kind of like metaphors. I love metaphors. I think it's a great way to teach lessons, and I like to read between the lines. So I kind of fall into that category. The next one is talking about whether you are more of a thinker or if you're more of a feeler. Thinkers are going to look at what is the truth, what's logical, what are the facts. If the scientific method says this, or if there's a theory on this, or if this is proven, this is kind of where I want to be. Whereas feelers, again, this is me, I like to know that stuff. It's really great information, but does it feel right? If I'm following my heart, if I'm doing those things that make me feel good, is this really where it's going to take me? And the last one is whether you are more perceptive or whether you have a little bit more judgment in your life. And that perception is being able to extrapolate from the things that are going on around you and all of the input and being okay with, you know what, we're going to go with the flow a little bit. We're kind of going to ride the wave. We're going to figure out where this is going. I may not have a solid plan, but we'll get there. A to B, we'll figure it out. I may not be able to tell you where I want to go for dinner that night. I may not be able to tell you what pair of shoes I want to wear. But at work, if we have a problem to solve, I'm going to make a plan, okay? And I want to be in a position where I feel like, you know what, this plan is going to work. So here I know that I am an INFJ, introverted, intuitive, feeling, and judgment. What does that mean to you guys? What does that mean to me? How do I bring that to an interview? And I struggled with that for a while. And I'm sitting here thinking, I'm just falling back into that same stereotype of being an emotional woman. And how am I going to develop my leadership skills? Until I decided I'm going to take all of those things and develop a motto, a slogan, a tagline, if you will, so that I can put all of those things out there and it describes my character, my personality, and who I am as a leader. So if you saw the title of my speech, you already know my tagline. My tagline is that I am intensely sincere and sincerely intense. Here's what that means to me. This is my truth. Intensely sincere, I'm going to wear my heart on my sleeve. So if you hire me, I'm going to be that person who wants to know about my coworkers. I want to know what makes you tick. How can I communicate with you to get the best result? Are you a hugger? Are you a fist bumper? Do I shake your hand? Do I ask you how your dog is doing after you take it to the vet? I want to know these things because I want to be invested in who you are as a person. And so that's what I bring to the table every day when I go to work. And honestly, it's something that I'm still working on. I'm obviously very, very young in my position, but I think that those people skills and being intensely sincere about how I feel and how I want to relate to my coworkers and to those who are under my charge is something that's very important. On the flip side, the sincerely intense, I have two stories to illustrate this. The first one, imagine little 3-foot-tall Britt playing basketball. I was such a baller back in southern Indiana. That's all you do is play basketball, right? 6-year-old Britt playing girls club basketball. I make a pass. Person on the receiving end of the pass puts up a layup. It goes in. I get an assist. Booyah! I go fist bumping all down the court, all the way from inline to inline, just, yeah, really excited about it. So I'm standing in line at Burger King, which was my dad's favorite restaurant for like 8.5 years. Whopper Jr. with cheese, no tomato, no onion, every single time. Sorry, Dad. So we're standing in line waiting to get Whopper Juniors, and my mom goes, I saw you fist pumping after you made that pass today. And I think my face probably turned the same shade of red as my jacket right now. I was so embarrassed because I thought that she was going to say something to the effect of, you may need to tone that down a little bit, Britt. But she didn't. And what she said to me next has stuck with me for the last 22 years. She said, I like that. Never lose that. Always be that intense. And that's something that I wish more mothers would say to their children. Because sometimes, whether you have a son or a daughter or a grandson or a granddaughter, we don't always encourage them to be their emotional selves and to be emotional beings. And we lose out on a great, great part of their personalities that way. And I was so blessed to be raised in a home where my emotions were encouraged and my emotions were nurtured. And that's something that I appreciate. Second story. 4 years ago, when this photo was taken, I was on my second cross-country cycling trip. Why I didn't think one was enough, I don't know. I am a glutton for punishment, y'all. So I am in Ontario, Oregon, which is a very, very, very small town on the border of Idaho and Oregon. And this is right about the time that McDonald's put out their 50-piece chicken McNugget. It's like $20 or whatever for 50 pieces of like salted cardboard, whatever it is that they serve you. And me being sincerely intense, read super competitive, decided, hey, I'm going to challenge the other 29 people on my cycling trip to a 50-piece chicken McNugget eating challenge. Okay, only 3 other people took part in this. I got to chicken nugget number 45 before I had to run to the restroom. I've never in my life been so sick, nor have I ever despised riding on a bike the next day as much as I did the next day. But by God, after I went to the restroom, I came back and I finished those other 5 chicken nuggets. So, what do these stories mean whenever we're talking about being sincerely intense? For me, it is making sure that you know I'm going to be your rallying point. I'm going to be that person who's going to push you. I'm going to be that person who wants to inspire you, but I'm not going to overwhelm you. I'm not going to be this female boss over here that's going to be so cold and deadline-driven that you're not going to know which way is up. I want to meet you where you are, and then we can lead each other to where we need to go. But being intense doesn't have to mean being cold-hearted. It just means being really, really focused on what you want and what your goals are. So as we're going and finishing up, I want you to think about this. Go back to those 3 words that you guys thought about whenever I asked you to think of words to describe yourself. Have those changed? If they haven't, think about how can I change those to show who I am emotionally, but who I also am as a leader. And that's a challenge for anybody, male or female, in this room. And as you go out into your lives tomorrow and in the days ahead, challenge yourselves to find your tagline, to find your place, to find your leadership style. Because at the end of the day, you can do and be and propel yourself anywhere that you want to be. You can be a rock star, you can be a great leader, and by God, you can be a badass. Thanks.